Last night, I treated my wife like a queen. We had been going through some tough times recently, and this seemed like a good time to turn things around. I took a day off from work, ostensibly to take our two kids to soccer camp for the week, but more to make sure everything would be perfect. I started by sending Melinda 2 dozen long red roses to work. I wrote the note myself. Roses are red. My love true. My plans for tonight. They will make it more obvious to you. Dinner with me. Dessert you yourself. Second and third servings. I guarantee you. Yes, I know it's not Shakespeare, but I figured it would work. And I was right, but you knew it. I received a passionate kiss at the front door, plus a report of how jealous her co-workers were. Melinda looked at me with a lustful look. Lucky is an understatement for what your evening will be like. I immediately took the initiative into my own hands and corrected her. This evening is for you. Step 2, I prepared a hot bubble bath for my love, complete with a perfectly chilled glass of Chardonnay. I told her to take her time while I prepared dinner. It's not like I cooked. I just went to her favorite Italian place and got dinner for two. When I returned, I put it in the oven. I had just finished setting the table when I heard Melinda behind me. You're a naughty, naughty boy. I turned around and saw a vision in red. Melinda was in everything I bought today, wearing a negligee, bra and panty set, garter stockings and shoes red stilettos that screamed, "Take me." She had no idea how naughty I planned to be. Dinner and much wine later, I took her to our bedroom. She followed me willingly as I slowly undressed her along the way. I laid her on the bed and sprinkled kisses all over her body. And then, after multiple caresses, we got busy. Love. We rested for a few minutes, saying the words that lovers say. I actually did most of the talking. It was a bit incoherent. I told her over and over how much I loved her. Then I started caressing her again, and then we had sex again. I climbed into bed next to her and immediately fell asleep. I slept very soundly. I woke up early the next morning, took a shower, and left the house before she knew it. I left a note reminding her that I would have to work late to make up for the day off I had taken earlier. Oh, I definitely had work to do today. Today I, Timothy Allen Peake, am ambushing a girl of easy virtue. I looked at my watch. She should appear any minute. This girl will be my wife Melinda, the aforementioned queen of last night's lovemaking. Melinda has been cheating on me for, well, as I found out, most of the year. I was sure of this last month. I suspected 2 months before that. My suspicions were based on the little things that happen between couples, on behavior, habits, and, most importantly, on slight prevarications that hint that something is wrong. For example, there were many little things that in themselves were explained innocently, such as our sex life became much worse, while Melinda began to dress sexier. She felt it, I certainly didn't. I know there's not much to suspect. One of the main cases that caught my attention and gathered my observations into suspicion was on a weekend evening without children. Melinda met me at the restaurant, having come straight from work. Arriving, it turned out, was the key word, because Melinda had the undeniable sheen of someone who had just had great sex. It was visible in her eyes, on her face, and especially in the way she moved. That night, when I was supposed to be the lucky one, she refused sex, citing a mild thrush. I decided to find out the truth. So I started following her, monitored her time away from me, checked her laundry, and listened very, very carefully to everything she said. It's amazing how much you can hear in ordinary conversations if you really listen carefully. I have always relied on the idea that a woman will do everything possible to avoid outright lies. This doesn't mean that you will get the truth. It means that you need to really listen carefully and consider all the possible meanings of the words that are spoken. It's almost like you're playing verbal chess, so many possibilities and permutations. I was surprised by the subtle hint of disrespect that permeated our interaction. There was an undeniable disdain expressed. I seemed to have lost my former place in the hierarchy and equality of our relationship. It was also difficult to reach her at work on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Although my suspicions had turned into certainties in my mind, nothing was serious enough to warrant going to a lawyer. Then I found what I needed, actual physical proof. A pair of black lace panties. I knew the last time I saw her in those panties. I knew until the day we last had sex. The difference between the two dates indicated infidelity. As far as I was concerned, she was more guilty than innocent at that point. Facing Melinda was a little more problematic. I mean, she's been lying to me for who knows how long. I assumed she justified her betrayal with some twisted rationalization. I decided to take a simple and direct approach. I suggested another evening just for husband and wife, reminding her that she owed me. I asked her specifically to wear black lace panties. That night, as we were getting dressed, I reminded her about the panties, and she said I wouldn't be disappointed. The dinner went well. I lavished her with attention and wine. By the time we got home, Melinda was horny like I hadn't seen in years. "Take off your clothes for me." I leaned back against the head of the bed, hands behind my head. "Come on, sexy thing, show me what you've got." Melinda began to sway as if drunk, but shook her head. "Come on, Melinda, you owe me. We haven't had sex in almost a month." I waved my finger at her. "We had sex on the day of your business trip. It was only 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks. Okay, 2.5 weeks. One fact has been confirmed. Come on, sexy thing, take it off. Okay? But don't expect it to be every time you take me out." I nodded as Melinda slowly undressed. First, she took off her shoes, then her stockings, her blouse slowly unbuttoned. She worked diligently on every button. Her blouse was off, and underneath, she was wearing a black lace bra that matched her panties. She actually gave a teaser by taking off her bra, first lowering the strap, then lifting it back up. Then the straps came down and stayed there. "I can't wait to see those panties, baby." I saw a wave of anxiety on her face. This only increased my excitement. I was ready for some trick of hers. She didn't let me down. She unzipped her skirt, bent down, and hooked her thumbs into the material. "Stop. Hey, who's having a dance here?" She was trying to joke, but I could hear the hard undertone underneath her tone. "Hey, I thought this was for my pleasure. I want to see those panties." "What's the matter with these panties, Tim? Come on. I'm horny. You're horny. I gave them to you for our anniversary last year, remember? They symbolize our marriage, our intimate connection. Come on, spoil me, take off your skirt, and show me these panties." Melinda let her skirt fall away, revealing no panties. She put her hands on her hips. Ta-da! I was temporarily stunned. I didn't expect this. Luckily, my body didn't give me away. Excitement at this moment would be a point for her. I was surprised how quickly I took the initiative again. "Where are the black panties? Put them on and start over." I asked to see my wife in black panties, not my wife looking like a perverted star. Perverted star? She lost her balance for a moment, and then her disrespect for me came to the fore. "I did it for you." "Who is speaking?" "Personally, I think it makes you look slutty." "Slutty?" Her eyes narrowed, and she turned red with anger. "Just put on your panties, please." I changed my tone to a more amiable one. "What is it with you and those damn panties?" She was losing her composure, and I couldn't feel in control anymore. "I like them. I like the way you look at them. Why is it so difficult for you to do one simple thing for me? Could you please put on some panties?" "I couldn't find them, Tim, okay?" She was furious with me. "They're probably in the wash. You always wash your clothes together. You have a bra. But where are your panties?" I wasn't going to let it go. "I told you I couldn't find them." She was angry, and I became calmer and calmer. "Hey, don't be mad at me. I'm just the guy who gave them to you and asked you to wear them for him." I shrugged, expressing innocence. "All you had to do was say something sooner. I wouldn't insist if you told me the truth. All you had to do was be truthful. What's so hard about that? So the last time you wore them was right before I remember my trip. because you looked so sexy in them when we were getting ready for bed. You took them off, hey, maybe they were kicked under the bed. Look, Tim, can we forget about these damn panties right now? The excitement left her face. I saw a glimmer of doubt in her eyes. Can't you just make love to me? Sure, no problem. Melinda breathed a sigh of relief. I'm not done with her yet. I think I remember where I bought them. Damn, they really meant a lot to me. Yes, Tim. There was caution in her voice. I see. She moved away from the bed, her desire clearly subsiding. The last time I saw you wearing them was here in this room. I climbed off the bed and knelt next to her, lifting the canopy. You took them off before we had sex, right? I think you were standing about here, remember? I remember, Tim. I stood here, took them off, and we had sex. But now I'm standing here. I don't have them on, and I think I'm developing a headache. I think I'm giving you a reprieve for the rest of the evening. Melinda began picking out her clothes. Wow, what's the problem? It's just panties, not that big of a deal. Melinda looked unhappy. Are we okay, Melinda? Is there something you want to tell me? I mean, it's been 2.5 weeks since we had sex, and I made a simple request, and now I'm out of favor. Why? You didn't just tell me you didn't know where your panties were. What's so hard about being honest with me? Why don't you try to hide something like that? I don't know. I didn't want to disappoint you. I know we haven't been together for a long time. We're both so busy with careers and family. I think I turned almost nothing into a big problem. I'm sorry. Me too. Well, how about we reschedule our date? Oh, look. I smiled as I pulled out my dirty panties and handed them to her. She took them, looked puzzled, scared for a moment, then confident. That's where they were? I thought I was looking there. I had to admit, she recovered quickly. Come on, put them on. They're dirty, Tim. I'll make sure you're the first to see them after I wash them. What happened next was a bravura display of lies and evasiveness. We were wrong about the dates and times we had sex. She even made a big deal out of realizing that I suspected her of seeing someone else. I was jealous without reason. The high point was that she thought it was cute that I suspected her of being a horny woman. I apologized endlessly for my jealousy and bad memory. I watched as a feeling of victory bloomed on her face. I'm sure she thought everything was fine. This was not the case. She was wrong. It was not nothing, and there was nothing nice about it. I knew it. My apologies dissolved in white-hot, silent anger. My anger led to a change in perception. I no longer doubted. I now knew that she was having sex with someone else. As far as I was concerned, our marriage was over. I knew, and soon she would know that I knew. When you are no longer in denial, you can learn a lot in a very short time. I was looking for hard evidence, basically. I wanted to catch her in the act, and I was willing to do whatever it took. It's amazing what you can do with modern GPS equipment. A bug on your own phones, a little digging on the computer, and a couple of digital voice recorders. All too soon I had a pretty clear picture. Who he was, what they did, how often, and most importantly, when they planned to meet next. Her lover was some guy named Ernie. They met 2 or 3 times a week, usually at a motel on the other side of town. It all sounded so routine when you listened to the tapes. The biggest surprise for me was the complete lack of guilt on her part. In recorded conversations, I was usually portrayed as simply someone to be factored into their schedule. That's all I was, a complication of their meetings. When I realized her absolute indifference and the depth of her disrespect for me, I went from vague thoughts about a possible reconciliation. She would really have to try to absolute revenge. She would pay. I wasn't going to fight for her. She was now the enemy. I was going to fight against her for everything. It's amazing what such clarity can do to you. I can even tell you exactly when I reached this turning point. This happened while listening to one side of a conversation, shortly after the panty incident. The voice recorder in her car recorded her side of the phone conversation between Melinda and her lover. Melinda, Suspicious. No more. Tim trusts me completely. You should see how much he tries to be nice to me. It's really very nice. Melinda, I just explained that the dirty underwear he found was because of him after we had sex. I said I had been looking for these panties for weeks. I thanked him for finding them under the washing machine. He believed without a second thought. Melinda, yeah, but he's my dumbass. Melinda, yes, I love it. Be patient. I'm almost there. Melinda, no, Ernie, I already told you. I love Tim. He is my husband. Melinda, yes, I love you too, but in a different way. Thank God I don't have to choose. I have the best of both worlds. The husband who makes love to me and the lover who sleeps with me. It's funny what you can think about when you don't care about the other person anymore. The bitch will pay, and a lot. My revenge was multifaceted. I wanted Melinda to suffer in both the short and long term. If all goes according to plan, Melinda will never forget her betrayal. I wasn't out to hurt Ernie as far as I was concerned. He was just an opportunistic jerk. If problems came to him, so be it. But with children, it was a different story. I wanted to protect them from the initial explosion of our family's disintegration. Besides, I wanted it all to fall on Melinda. I wanted her to see their sad faces and know that she was the only one to blame for this. In that sense, they actually set my deadlines. I waited until the school year was over and arranged for them to have a week-long soccer camp at a university, a couple of hours away from home. The camp operated from Monday to Friday. I dropped the kids off Monday morning and spoke with the camp directors. I explained that I had serious issues with their mother regarding fidelity. I told them I was going to file for divorce today or tomorrow, depending on when she gets home. I wanted to protect the children in the first days of pain. The directors were very sympathetic. Today, Tuesday, was the day of reckoning. Melinda was supposed to meet Ernie at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I spent that day putting all my affairs in order, prepared divorce papers, changed locks, dealt with bank accounts and credit cards. It was a day Melinda will never forget. I looked at my watch again. Time was the key to everything. I smiled as I saw her car pull into the parking lot. Operation Strike the Bitch was now in action. As soon as I saw her car turn into the parking lot, I called Melinda's work and left a quick message on her voicemail saying that there was an emergency and she needed to call me on my cell phone ASAP. Ernie arrived a few minutes later. Hell, he was young, somewhere in his mid to late 20s. Any remaining doubts about my intentions disappeared when I saw Melinda enthusiastically kiss Ernie. I called her on her mobile while she was still kissing him. She looked at the phone and did what I expected. She let him call. I hung up at the start of her voicemail and called again. I thought she would either turn off the phone or leave it in the car. She chose the second option and left the phone in the car. That's when I left a message saying there was a family emergency and she needed to call me back ASAP. I watched them enter the room and started calling and hanging up every couple of minutes. I planned to leave dozens of missed calls on her phone. I waited about 20 minutes, assuming they were at least undressed, if not having sex, then pulled up to Melinda's car. I opened the trunk. Did you know that you can unscrew the inside of a tire valve and the air will come out instantly? In less than 3 minutes, I deflated both driver's side tires on Melinda's car and screwed the valves back into place. I took a half-dozen roofing nails that I cut to about a 1/4 inch long and stuck them into the tight part of the tire tread. It looked like she'd run over a pile of nails cruelly, but successfully. I also gave Ernie's truck a special treatment. I borrowed a small jack and lifted the front of his car and loosened the oil pan bolt until it was barely holding on. I lowered his car, put the jack in the trunk, and closed it. I finished everything in 15 minutes. I left and waited for them to finish. They left the room 2 hours later with lots of kissing and hugging. The only noticeable difference was that Melinda's movements were more sluggish and gentle, the way she is after sex. Her movements were anything but sluggish. As she saw the 2 flat tires, she was gesturing and waving her arms as she walked back and forth along her car. Ernie must have said something stupid because she turned and said something to him that made him throw his hands up in front of him as he shook his head and backed away, idiot. I called her phone. She looked into the car and began rummaging through her purse for her car keys. I swear you could see her wince when she saw the number of missed calls. It's showtime. I saw her dialing the number and preparing for her speech. "Hello, Tim. Are you?" Her voice sounded shaky and nervous. "God, Melinda, where have you been?" I screamed into the phone. I paused to catch my breath. "No need to shout, Tim. I can hear you just fine. I've been trying to call you for hours. Where are you? Why aren't you at work?" I spoke, raising my voice to the point of panic. Melinda began to choke out some weak excuse. I started interrupting her. I started rustling the paper and interrupting my speech. "Be quiet and listen. There's a serious situation at the soccer camp. Both kids have been taken away and are being prepped for emergency surgery. The doctors aren't sure they'll survive. Hurry, damn it, my battery is running low. Got it. Meet me at the University Medical Center. Hurry up. Melon." I hung up and turned off the phone. I could see her screaming into the phone. Then she perked up. Melinda pushed Ernie towards his car, and soon they were heading onto the freeway. I waited until they were out of sight, then walked over to Melinda's car. I removed the dummy nails from her tires and re-inflated them both with emergency tire repair cans. She'll need the car before the end of the day. I had a couple more calls left before I headed home. I headed onto the highway they had to take to get to the university. I stopped at the first emergency phone booth on the freeway and took out my 2-voice recorders. Soon I was talking to the highway patrol. I lowered my voice and added a southern accent. "Hey, officer, I'd like to report a case of, well, road rage. I guess that's what it's called. Oh, I was driving under the speed limit, and this blue Toyota pickup just came up behind me right next to my ass. Sorry about that." Expression. I probably should have moved aside, but well, this crazy guy starts pressing the horn. Then he flies around me. It's amazing that he didn't hit anyone and almost hit me. It was so bad that I was driving with my wife and children. Then he accelerated and crashed right in front of me. I wrote down the last 3 digits of the number. "My name is..." I pressed to the recorder. An angry female voice came from the speaker. "Tell them about the gun. Harold, I saw the gun. That crazy guy showed you the gun." I turned away from the phone. "Honey, I haven't seen him. Look, I'm just telling them my name." I pressed the second recorder. "So these crazy people can track us and kill us? Hang up, Harold. Hang up right now. That's it, Harold." I disconnected the call. I recorded these phrases with a work colleague who had a thick southern accent. I told her it was for a prank on my slacker Shura. She gave me half a dozen takes without batting an eyelid. I got into the car and headed home. On the way, I called the football camp and said in a tired voice that the conversation with my wife about divorce had not gone well. I told them she had lost it and was threatening my life. I warned them that she and her lover might be heading there to try to take the children. I told them I was just calling to make sure they wouldn't give the kids to them since my wife's lover is known to be using something and it's not a safe situation for the kids. The camp workers were very understanding. I asked them not to say anything to the children unless it was absolutely necessary. About an hour later, I was sitting at home, eating pizza and drinking beer. I figured I had at least another hour before May Ann could show up. That would be the case if she could contact the soccer camp and find out the kids were okay. I didn't think it was likely since I had made all the necessary arrangements, and she didn't even have the correct camp name, let alone a phone number. If she had gotten to the university, she would have learned that there was no university medical center or hospital there. If only she could get there, I smiled at the thought. If the oil drain plug had fallen out, she and Ernie would have been sitting on the side of the road. A couple of hours later, the camp called to say that Melinda and a male companion had indeed shown up. They arrived accompanied by state police. Police pulled them over for speeding and nearly frisked them for weapons following a report of road rage. The camp staff assured her that the children were fine, but refused to let Melinda see them unless it was in the presence of their father. She asked them, "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Then one of the camp staff mentioned her impending divorce and asked whether the man she came with was her husband or her lover. They say Melinda turned pale and then became hysterical. State police were to escort Melinda and Ernie off campus. Then the camp staff made my day. I couldn't plan this part. While Melinda and Ernie were talking, one of the employees mentioned the substances to the police. They stopped Ernie right after they left campus and searched him again. Apparently, Ernie got angry and got into an argument with one of the officers. He was arrested for drunk driving. Melinda was declared unfit to drive due to her hysterical emotional state and placed under temporary arrest. Some time after speaking with the camp staff, I received a call from the state police. I had a very pleasant conversation with Sergeant Waterston. I explained that my wife had been cheating on me and that I had finally reached my breaking point. Melinda was informed this afternoon that I have contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce. I gave the sergeant my lawyer's phone number. The sergeant asked if I would remain available as he wanted to talk to my wife. I said sure, but don't be surprised if she denies everything. I even suggested that I wouldn't mind if they wanted to swab her. He refused. Half an hour later, he called again. They were releasing Melinda, and my wife wanted to talk to me. I told the sergeant that she could call my lawyer at the number I provided. He laughed a little when he asked if I was coming to pick up Melinda. I informed them that her car was in the parking lot of the motel where she had sex with her lover. He laughed a little too. 10 minutes later they called, and I saw Melinda's phone number on the display. I picked up the phone and said nothing. Finally, after a long pause, I heard Melinda's breath and trembling voice. "Tim, I don't know what you think is going on, but please don't make this any worse than you already have. Your cheating ruined our family, you stupid cheater." I hung up and turned off the ringer. I would have loved to have seen her face when she heard the new greeting on her answering machine. "Hi, this is Tim. Melinda doesn't live here anymore. Her phone number is..." It was 2 o'clock in the morning when I heard someone knocking on the front door. I walked up to the door and shouted through it, "Your stuff is in the driveway. Take your cheater and get out of here. Tim, please let me in." Melinda sounded absolutely exhausted. "There was a terrible misunderstanding. We need to talk. I love you, Tim. Please." We argued for some time, but I did not give in. Finally, I played part of the phone conversation I recorded while she was driving in the car. She talked to Ernie and said how much she loved pleasing him and having sex with him. Melinda began to cry. I told her to pack her things and go to her lover or whoever else she was cheating on. She finally left, saying that she would go to her parents and return tomorrow to sort everything out. The next day did not turn out as she had planned. In fact, none of the following days worked out for her. I was relentless and merciless. On Thursday, I officially served her with a claim at work. This trick made her wait for me in the car at the end of the workday. She was furious. "I have nothing to tell you, bitch." I was pleased with my ability to remain calm. "Don't you dare talk to me like that. I can't believe you sued me at work. Do you understand what you have done?" She was angry like I've never seen. "What have I done? I will talk to you as I please. Maybe you'd rather like stupid cheater." "Tim, I admit that I may have been mistaken. We can overcome this. I love you, Tim. Let's stop this stupidity and..." "Stupidity? You're a cheating, stupid bitch. If I give you $20, will you leave?" "How dare you? I'm your wife, Tim. I am the mother of our children. Now they will return home tomorrow and find me. They will only find me. I imagine you, stupid bitch, on your back somewhere with your boy." "Tim, please stop calling me. This won't help us. We need to discuss this. I understand you're angry and upset, but we can get through this, Tim." Our marriage may become stronger because of this. Can you hear yourself, you stupid cheater? Stop calling me names, Tim. Fine. Answer me this. I stared at her with such hatred that I was even surprised. She cowered in front of me. You chose to be with another man. You undressed in front of him, made him feel good, and let him have sex with you. You risked everything. Our marriage, our family, my love and respect for you, my health, by the way. Dear, I was tested and so far I'm clean. I have to wait 6 months for an HIV test. You risked everything. What did your lover risk? Nothing. What did you get? Tell me what you got. You're about to lose everything. Melinda, what did you get from your lover? What did you get for throwing it all away? She just shook her head, unable to speak. That's right, you didn't get anything. No jewelry, no trips to romantic places, no cars, nothing, no secret bank account. No suitcase full of money, not a damn thing, right? You didn't receive anything. Well, you're right about one thing. I really don't have the right to call you a stupid, easy-to-get woman. Such a woman is smart enough to get something for sex. You slept with another man for which you got nothing, and now you're going to lose everything. You're not even smart enough to be a decent bitch. Calling you that is an insult to frivolous girls. Looks like it just makes you look really dumb. I drove away, leaving her sitting on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. To hell with it. I arrived at the lawyer's office on time. I even stopped home to take a shower and get into my suit. I wanted her to see me at my best. I sat across from her in the lawyer's office. If I cared about her, the look Melinda gave me should have squeezed every feeling out of my heart. Her pain was palpable. My expression remained calm and unperturbed. My determination was unshakable. She made one last attempt to delay the inevitable. I just looked at my watch and then back at Melinda. Her shoulders sagged. She took a pen and asked my lawyer where to sign. The victory was mine. I felt like I wanted to do some stupid victory dance. The first document she signed was a divorce petition indicating the incompatibility of characters. Once upon a time, it was important for me that the reason was stated to be betrayal. I was lucky to have a lawyer who really knew how to hurt. As she told me over and over again, the key was the terms of the divorce. Success was determined by knowing what the other side wanted and what you could get them to give in return. The entire signing process was literally a production that my lawyer and I had thoroughly rehearsed. There were props and characters. It was really impressive. The next document was a request to change the last name. Melinda needed to go back to her maiden name. If you think this isn't important, think again. She won't have the same last name as her kids anymore. This moment almost ruined the agreement. Oh yes, it was very painful. I watched as Melinda refused my last name, tears rolling down her cheeks. A small black tray was placed in front of her. This time, when Melinda looked at me, her expression was blank. That's when it hit me, and I actually felt a pang of sympathy. It wasn't just the realization that hope of avoiding this was fading. It was more than that. The awareness of loss was overwhelmed by the reality of surrender. Her losses suddenly became real. They were no longer negotiating points. She looked at the tray and shuddered as she took off her wedding ring. As soon as she placed it on the tray, it was quickly carried out of the room. She twirled her engagement ring on her finger. I let her keep it, but even that small victory soon turned to ashes. Do you know why I'm letting you keep this ring, Melinda? I gave you this ring when I asked you to be my wife. I want you to keep this ring to remember all our promises and everything you threw away. I took my wedding ring off my finger and pushed it towards her. You can return this, it's still intact. I kept my promises. One of the paralegals returned with a tray. Melinda's ring was cut in half. I took both pieces and held them in my open palm, then threw the pieces into the trash. Useless trash. Melinda swayed in her chair and reached out to grab the table. Her head shook a little. My rush of victory began to fade. I really started to feel sorry for her when the next document was placed in front of her. This was a waiver of rights to her share in the house. The key here was that the cash value of her share went into a college trust for the children. with her control until they came of age. Finally, we came to a document that ensured her agreement with everything previous. This is an agreement on raising children. My lawyer spoke clearly. Do you fully understand the terms of this parenting agreement? The children remain in the house. Parents alternate living in the house every week. The transfer of parenting rights occurs every Sunday from 6 to 7 in the evening. All expenses are divided equally until the children graduate from college or reach adulthood. If you agree to these terms and conditions, simply sign below. I watched as my soon-to-be ex-wife signed. The pen fell helplessly from her hands, and she began to cry in earnest. Defeat is not a pretty sight, and it lasts for a long, very long time. I was ahead of Melinda from the moment she walked out of that motel room with Ernie. My position was unchanged: divorce and control over raising children. Apparently, she thought she would find a way around all this. I had several trump cards. Of course, the key was the children. I tried my best to protect them and make sure Melinda and her parents had access to them. I also promised not to tell the children about what their mother did that led to our divorce. It was couched in the language of, "Your mom and dad are separating as partners, but not as parents." Another clue was the threat to release and distribute video evidence of Melinda and Ernie, although, in truth, I didn't actually have it. Years ago, a friend told me that he had seen porn with an actress who looked like Melinda. I checked and admitted that there was indeed a resemblance. While planning my revenge, I used this similarity to my advantage by purchasing several of these films. I found a couple of videos of actors who fit Ernie's description: 20-something, average height and weight, dark hair, etc. By recording portions of the TV video with my camcorder, I was able to create a fairly graphic motel scene. This was especially effective when viewed on the camera's 2.5-inch LCD screen. It looked like Melinda having sex with Ernie. Melinda would have recognized the fake immediately, but not her father. We had a meeting where he tried to convince me to give Melinda another chance. He said he was willing to pay a lawyer to prevent the divorce from taking place. So I showed the video to her father. I told him it was one of the easiest to watch and that I had hours of it. Apparently, he was very persuasive in persuading Melinda to give up her resistance. I think I would be too if an angry brother-in-law was threatening to send a video to anyone and everyone they knew: family, friends, co-workers, etc. The defining moment, once everything was signed and finalized, was the co-parenting agreement. Over the next few weeks, I made sure that the agreement was specific and clear that Melinda was not allowed to bring her lovers into the house. You know what's funny? The last thing I expected when I was getting divorced was the impact it seemed to have on women. I can't say my self-esteem didn't suffer after Melinda cheated on me. You can't help but feel like I'm not quite a man, or at least I must have been a bad lover. I was shocked to learn that my new marital status, or lack thereof, had a catnip effect on women. During my divorce, I stubbornly held to high moral standards by not engaging in revenge through sex or dating at all. It just wasn't in my nature, plus my lawyer insisted there were no additional complications. But as an officially free man with a good credit history and sufficient free funds, suddenly I became desirable. And you know what's even better? It turned out that many women were determined to help me cope with this difficult period. I was pleasantly surprised by the number of women willing to help me get back on track, so to speak. They were so persistent that I began to look forward to time spent at home with the children. I needed a rest. I had offers from women at work, from acquaintances, and even from residents of my new apartment complex where I was staying on my week off. This is how it happened the first time, when I was still moving to a new place. I ordered pizza, so the quiet knock indicating its arrival was not surprising. However, the courier definitely surprised me. I recognized her as someone I had seen in the building. I didn't know her name. "Hi, my name is Darlene, and I just wanted to welcome you to the building." Darlene was of average beauty and had an easygoing and pleasant personality. I invited her in, and we shared pizza and a couple of beers. Darlene was divorced. He was trying to fuck a woman's entire being. Charming, a little overweight, and incredibly outspoken. "Tim, I like you. You seem like a really nice guy. So when you need the company of a woman, just call old Darlene." I nodded without realizing. I almost started saying that I was okay with cooking and cleaning as a newly single guy. I really had no idea. I love sex, both receiving and doing, but we will only do it after the date. Darlene had my zipper unzipped in seconds. She looked at him with a critical eye. "Well, Tim, you have a good copy, lucky me." This was, without a doubt, the strangest offer I have ever received. The next night we had sex. I managed to convince her that the pizza dinner we shared the night before counted as a date. We started having sex often. It's not that we were an exclusive couple, far from it. A couple of weeks after we started dating, Darlene went on a business trip during one of my off weeks, so she sent someone to replace it. Rhonda, oh my God, how she knew how to have sex. I'll admit, I was a bit of a libertine at first. I slept with, or more accurately said I had sex with, and was satisfied with 17 different women in the first year after my divorce. The sex was wonderful, if a little empty. I admit that I missed the intimacy that Melinda and I once had. On the other hand, this lack only fueled my ongoing grief for her. I was not shy about demonstrating my love affairs in front of her. I loved seeing that pain in her eyes every Sunday night. Gradually, everything returned to normal. Even the children seemed to feel normal. The holidays were painful, especially the first time, but we made it through. The months turned into years, and we all grew older, if not wiser. 4 years after the divorce, the unexpected happened. I fell in love. The children participated in a youth group at church. The group organized various events, including a couple of weekends in the snow each winter. I was sometimes asked to be a chaperone, and I was more than happy to help. During one of Jillian's ski trips, one of the other escorts broke her arm. After providing first aid to the ski patrol, I was asked to take her down the mountain to get an X-ray and a cast. Once we got to the hospital, it turned out to be overcrowded due to a car accident, so we went across the street to eat and kill a couple of hours. Jillian was pretty, not beautiful, and she was only 25. As we talked and ate, I realized there was real chemistry between us. I felt deeply attracted to her. She didn't do anything to dissuade me. It took me a month to work up the courage to ask her out on a real date. After all, I was 21 years older. She agreed, and we started dating. I gradually gave up my harem over the next few weeks as Jillian, and I became more and more serious. Everything happened pretty quickly. Jillian and I had been a couple for several months when Melinda asked if I was in love with Jillian. I was ready to deny it, but I realized that I couldn't lie about something like that. I answered with a quiet yes. Melinda simply nodded and then hugged me. "You deserve to be happy." I was stunned. First of all, I realized that I really loved Jillian. Secondly, Melinda felt it and accepted it. And thirdly, when I told Jillian about it, she just smiled and said it was about time I realized it. For the first time in many years, I realized that I was truly happy. I really felt pleased with myself. Then I realized that there was something very important that I needed to do. I accepted Melinda's apology for her infidelity years ago, but at the time I refused to forgive her. It's time to officially forgive Melinda. On the way, I remembered her attempts to apologize and explain. The first time it hardly counted. This was shortly before the divorce and custody agreements were signed. Melinda asked to meet for half an hour, just the two of us, before signing. I knew she would try to talk me out of getting a divorce. I came prepared. On the way to the meeting, I listened to tapes of Melinda having sex with Ernie. I spent the entire half hour looking at her like she was nothing less than dog crap. When half an hour had passed, I looked at my watch and picked up my pen. She realized that she had failed. Her second attempt was right after our first celebration of the holidays as a divided family. Due to a quirk of the calendar, I found myself with the kids on Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was a terrible time, and in early January Melinda asked to talk to me. Then I learned that she knew about my dates, or as she put it, my open door, open fly policy. Everything went downhill from there. Listen, Tim, I know I messed up. I've caused a lot of pain to our family, Tim. The holidays were terrible for me, for you, and for the children we all suffered. I know you've been with several women, and it just tears me up. We have to be together, Tim, all of us. I made an appointment with a family consultant. It's time for us to reunite. I've learned my lesson. I was amazed. I was so surprised, so stunned by what Melinda had just said that I couldn't respond at first. Then the anger began to seep in and my thoughts came into a cold focus. Learned your lesson? Yes, Tim. I will never lie to you again. I'll be completely honest. Melinda looked at me with an expression of complete sincerity. I assumed she believed her own bullshit. I understand. What about your lovers? Does this mean you plan to give them up? Singular, not plural. I haven't spoken or seen Ernie since that terrible day. Unlike you, I haven't dated anyone. Oh, I see. I looked at her and slowly nodded my head. So, straight to bed or a park bench will do too. How dare you? I haven't been with any other man, period. Unlike you and your parade life for one night. I saw how she began to get nervous. I just let her talk. Do you realize how much it hurts knowing you're leaving the kids behind and spending a week having sex with everything that moves? First of all, we are not married, Melinda. Secondly, I'm now a free guy. And thirdly, like it means anything. You and I belong together. It doesn't matter that you're free, it's still cheating on me. You need to stop playing and give us a chance to get back together. I couldn't stand it. Listen, Melinda, if you're horny, come over some night and we can have some fun. I've always had a fantasy about you, me and another woman. I'm ready. That was almost the end of that conversation. Melinda tried again every 6 months or so. It wasn't until about a year ago that she was able to apologize with any real sincerity. She had therapy, and it seemed to help. I realized this as soon as she started speaking. Even the tone of her voice was softer than usual. Tim, I want to start by saying that I don't believe I will ever be able to understand how deeply I hurt you with my betrayal of our marriage and my unacceptable lies to cover it up. I can't begin to tell you how sorry I am for the pain I caused you and the children because of my selfishness. It was only through therapy that I began to understand how disgusting and despicable my behavior was. I'm really sorry. Apologies are accepted. Melinda went on to tell me that her infidelity was the result of undiagnosed depression, a midlife crisis, and a complete breakdown of her values, morals, and ethics. She was unfaithful simply because she could. When all was said and done, this is what she was left with. Ernie wasn't some amazing lover, just different. There was nothing romantic or seductive about the way she met Ernie. It was work-related. She met him while I was on a business trip, and they danced and flirted on a Friday night after work. Ernie continued to keep in touch with Melinda after I returned. Then she realized how much she liked to sneak behind my back. It became a game between her and Ernie. The next time I went away for a couple of days, he persuaded her to take half a day off. He took her to a restaurant in the lobby of one of the hotels in the city center. They flirted uncontrollably during dinner and drank a lot of wine. He asked her if she was interested in dessert and invited her to try the establishment's special dessert. He then slid the room key across the table towards her. Melinda replied that she was flattered by such an offer, but refused. He persuaded her to at least look at the view from the room. As soon as they entered the room, she realized that there was no view from it. Ernie said that the most beautiful view in the world was right in front of him. Melinda said she just stood there and looked at him, horny as hell. Ernie pushed her against the wall, lifted the hem of her dress, and they began to have sex. It was the most depraved and rude thing she had ever done. When I returned, she relieved herself of guilt by paying special attention to me. But she was already waiting for the next time I left. As a result, She became so confident in cheating that she did not wait for my departure. This continued until I caught her. When she finished, I repeated that I accepted her apology and kept it to myself. I deliberately did not say that I forgive her. That's why I needed to do this before I got serious with Jillian. I needed to forgive Melinda in order to move forward. You should have seen the tears that Sunday evening Melinda, me, the children. We all cried, wiping our tears. Some tears were tears of sadness and regret, but most were happy tears. I told Melinda that no matter what, part of me would always love her. She said she never stopped loving me. I nodded in understanding. Nothing is eternal. It's always hard to understand. I loved Jillian, and she loved me. We were happy in our relationship, but both admitted that marriage was not in our plans. First of all, Jillian wanted kids, and I had a vasectomy right after China was born and didn't want to consider converting her. Not to mention, our time together had an expiration date. We just didn't know when it would come. We found out too soon. One Saturday afternoon, Jillian was lying on top of me after a particularly passionate lovemaking session when her mom called. Jillian's father was hospitalized due to a stroke. His condition was not encouraging. We packed Jillian up and got her to the airport as quickly as possible. We hugged and kissed, and at that moment we realized that we were probably saying goodbye forever. Jillian began to cry. I just tried to hug her tighter. When her flight was announced, we parted for the last time. Her parting words were, "I will never forget you, and I will never stop loving you." I held it together until I got into the car, and then I started crying. I was alone, and it hurt terribly. I sat there and realized that my anger at Melinda during our divorce was hiding a lot of pain that I had never dealt with. Then my status as free and available distracted me from serious introspection. My time with Jillian changed all that. It healed my anger towards Melinda and opened my heart to love again. Since it was already Sunday morning, I went to the house. Melinda and the children immediately knew something was wrong. When I told them what happened, they were very sympathetic. Melinda took the lead. She cooked me breakfast, then lunch, and finally dinner. We ended up talking until 1 a.m., and then she went home. I didn't sleep well that night. I spoke to Jillian several times throughout the week. Our conversations only confirmed what we both felt at the airport. Jillian's father would have a long recovery, and Jillian was going to stay and help her mother. I was really depressed. The kids knew what was going on and were incredibly supportive. However, on Friday, I found myself completely alone. The children were with friends, and I long ago threw away my little black book. Jillian cured me of my wild ways, and I didn't want to go back to them. I was thinking about dinner when the doorbell rang. Melinda stood in the doorway with a pizza, a six-pack of beer, and a comforting smile. I smiled back, took the beer from her hand, and followed the aroma of pizza as she walked past me into the house. We spent a wonderful evening talking until late into the night. I was really sorry when she went home. Surprisingly, I slept well that night. The next day, Saturday, promised to be very similar. The children had plans. I called Melinda around 3 o'clock in the afternoon and asked if I could take her to dinner. She objected at first, but gave in when I threatened to come over with a bunch of Chinese takeout. Melinda got straight to the point. "Are you asking me out, Tim?" Her tone was as conversational as it was interrogative. I noticed an ambiguity in the obviousness of our conversation. God, how cunning she was. She left it up to me. What she didn't know was that I had thought about it before the call. Exactly this. Exactly what? Ever heard a smile? I was sure I heard. What you just said. I didn't mean to get caught so easily. That's how you do it. There was a hint of wariness in her voice. Ask me. On a date? Yes, I will do it. I was calm and allowed the pause to complete my thought. Then he quickly spoke. If you have no other plans, I certainly don't want to burden you. Maybe next time will be better? No, she spoke too loudly and too harshly. I don't have anything important planned. Good recovery. Okay, I've loosened things up a lot. If that's no problem, I'll pick you up around 7, okay? It will be good at 7 sharp. She sounded comfortable. I was waiting for the inevitable. Oh, Tim, what place do you mean? The question of whether it was a date pales in comparison to this question. It was a real question. It wasn't about what to eat, it was about what to wear. If clothes make the man, then the way a woman dresses tells you. Damn, I had no idea. I played my trump card. I don't know a single woman who knows how to look good for any occasion better than you. I'll pick you up at 7. Bye. I immediately hung up. The next moment, despite the awkwardness of my speech, I was gripped by a full-blown panic attack. I just asked my ex-wife out on a date. What the hell was I doing? Was I serious? And if he was serious, then in what way? I thought I had thought it all through. Now I wasn't so sure. Was it some kind of ricochet feeling because of Jillian? Was I playing with Melinda, or was it something serious? Did I want to be with Melinda again? I wavered between excitement and horror. I almost called her half a dozen times. The problem was that I wasn't sure why exactly I was calling her, whether I was canceling or clarifying. And what exactly did I specify? I had a dozen different internal dialogues about what was happening, and I didn't agree with any of them. Finally, I decided to take a shower. It turned out to be a long shower. An unexpected erection required firm handling. After bathing, washing my hair and shaving, I still haven't come to a decision. I had no idea what I was doing asking Melinda out on a date or what I was going to wear. I left the bathroom and found myself in the unknown. I wasn't alone. Melinda stood in front of the mirrored doors of the dressing room. There was a red bra and panties on the bed. She was holding a short red dress in one hand and jeans and a t-shirt in the other. I'm just not sure. Tim, what do you think? I couldn't think. I stood naked in front of my also naked ex-wife. How could I think? I was excited, a fact that did not escape Melinda's attention. Oh, your recovery time has definitely improved with age. This answered the question of how long. She had been here. She stared at me. No, it was not just a look. It was more like she was aiming at me. Maybe if you tell me what you want, Tim, I'll have a better idea of where we're going. I was paralyzed, unable to speak or move. Dinner and our date were no longer a question. Where were we going? Well, part of me definitely knew where it wanted to go. My heart was pounding. Did Jillian turn you on that much? Did she enjoy seeing you like that? I have to say, Tim, that's really impressive, very attractive, and very, very sexy. Yes, Jillian did it to me, and she really enjoyed it. I would have said this to Melinda, if not for the fact that during the last sentence she closed the distance between us. Do you agree, Tim? Are you horny in the shower because of shaving? Or the reason you were shaving? Why were you shaving? Tim, are you starting to itch down there? I felt uneasy. I couldn't speak. I nodded. I'm itching too, really bad. You probably won't believe how much I'm itching. Melinda wrapped her arms around my neck. Simultaneously pulling and jumping on me, she wrapped her legs around my waist. And we had sex. That's how the kids found us. I completely forgot about them. They returned home to get ready for their dates when they heard Melinda scream. They will likely be scarred for life. That night, the children went on dates. Melinda and I went to our well, sort of. We couldn't handle the sexual tension and returned home to have sex like rabbits. The next morning, we were awakened by knocks on the bedroom door. Safely covered with a blanket, we invited them inside. Their facial expressions were vague, something like caution, fatigue, and expectation. Are you back together? There is nothing more direct than youthful directness. I took advantage of your father last night, Melinda said, her voice firm and tinged with sadness. She sighed, about to say something else, when I interrupted. Yes, she took the opportunity for us to consider reconciliation. If it suits her and you too, I think she and I should move here together ASAP, even today. What? The bed shook with Melinda's tremors. I think we both need a lot of counseling and time and patience, but I really don't see any other alternatives. Do you have any? Melinda's response was intensely physical. She rushed at me and started kissing me. I heard the bedroom door slam shut and a muffled yes came from the other side. Melinda took the situation and me into her own hands. You have no idea how carefully I'm going to make sure you never regret this, even if it takes the rest of my life. She was thorough. Oh yes, very, very thorough. I decided that the rest of our lives would be just enough.